All right, guys, I wanted to talk about a subject that obviously it's going to come up one time or another. I should have been talking about this earlier, but why working for a over the road or a charter or any sort of long haul company or bus company sucks? Yeah. So recently I was approached by one of the managers at my company who asked me about retention, right? He basically said that there have been a large number of new hires who were quitting. And, obviously retention has always been an issue with my particular company and a lot of companies. For the longest, the biggest issue with retention has always been pay. You're doing a lot of work, you're putting in a lot of hours, and you feel like you need more money. It's understandable. Companies used to pay like $16, $17 an hour, which is fine and dandy for some places, but I live in Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles, $16, $17 an hour just isn't enough. You need just a little more. So now the companies are coming up, they're paying, $20, $21. You're there for a few years and it can go as high as, $27 at my company. It's enough to live, it's not, pilot pay or whatever. It's not, working for the city pay, but it's a good amount of money. It's not, it's enough to, start living a more adult, normal life. So, one of the big issues that, if you start working for this company, or if you're dealing with any sort of company that's like my company, you're gonna deal with one of the biggest problems for being, basically an on-call driver, and that's rest. One of the biggest problems with our company is people just do not understand the full extent of what it means to not have good rest. You get, you think that just because, you sleep a few hours, you're good. And it doesn't work that way. That's the biggest problem. People will try to say, oh, it's operations. They're booking me on these jobs that I just don't want to do all the freaking time, and it's wearing me out. They're not being sensitive to my needs as a driver, and it's just not true. They are doing basically the mandated. They're doing the mandated meeting hours that you do. You're still gonna get your 9 hours of rest. You're still gonna get enough time to get fresh. But the problem is, saying that you're going to get those hours and how it really works out can be a little difficult, So I will give you a few examples of what makes it a hard job and what can make it really suck and why a lot of people quit is, for example, I had a day in which I was in Las Vegas and I was going to do a run from Las Vegas back to LA. I did that run, or actually, I was supposed to sit in Las Vegas for another day. They didn't have any jobs for me. It was pretty open, and I wanted to work. I didn't want to sit around. I don't really do much in Las Vegas. I wanted the money. I needed the work. So I called them up. I called up operations and I told them, I said, hey, you got any runs for me? And they were like, nah, not really, but we got you planned for tomorrow. And I was like, okay, cool. So literally an hour later, the terminal called. And there's always been a lot of contention between our driver managers and operations. Operations, they want to use you in a certain capacity, and the driver manager is more concerned about getting his local capacity fulfilled before, for all he knows, they could take me off the board and send me to Denver or, Phoenix at any time, and he needs those Vegas runs done. So it can be a little bit of a pain. So he calls me like an hour later, and he's like, hey, I got a run that the guy just called off on. Can you take it back to LA? So I'm like, sure. I took it back to LA. Wasn't a big deal. A few hours. I was back in LA at like 3 in the afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon is when I got in. And, they have 9 hours that they're supposed to give you off to get fresh, and you're good to go. So I get there, and I'm at home, and around, about 4 or 5 o'clock? No, not even 4 o'clock. Later in the afternoon, 6, 7 o'clock rolls around. I get a call from operations, and they're like, hey, we need you to do this run out of Vegas. So first they're calling me, and our whole setup says that if it's not your fresh time, they're not allowed to call you. They can't call you. If they do call you, it messes up your whole fresh time. You can't get a full rest. They're supposed to reset your fresh time. So they called me, and they're like, hey, we need you to do this run. And I'm like, why are you calling me? It's only been like 4 or 5 hours. I haven't gotten a full night's sleep. I haven't gotten 8 hours of sleep. And they're like, oh, well, we show that you've been fresh since yesterday. And I'm like, wait a minute. How do you not know? Your operations, you know where every bus is. You're supposed to know where every driver is. You're supposed to know that I'm not in Las Vegas anymore. So they reset my fresh time. They weren't supposed to call me until, like damn near midnight. So then, a few hours later, I get another call, and they're like, hey, we need you to do this job. And I'm like, why are you guys calling me again before the end of my fresh time? You're reset my fresh time now so I can get a good, solid 8 hours of sleep. And they're like, dude, we show that you're fresh. Well, apparently, they didn't pass it down to the other guy. To the guys that were taking over. So they thought I was still in Las Vegas. Go figure. So because of this, you get these problems every now and then. You get these problems. Operations isn't, taking notes sometimes, or there's a miscommunication. And the next thing you know, you're being called, you're being batted around. I've had days where they literally flew me to another place just to get there to find out that they double booked me. And I had no run. I was stuck in that place for like a day or so with no work. I get the minimum day for being there. That's it. And that sucks. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of their money. So a lot of people don't realize that that's the life. I've had days in which freaking they've called me, and I just got off a run at like freaking I had a day where I did a run that was from midnight to like 6 a.m. And then, I got off, I went home, I slept for like 4 hours, but it was the middle of the day. It's hard for me to sleep during the middle of the day sometimes. I get home, I get like only like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I go about my day. I still got to do shit. I still got to do laundry. I still got to eat. I got a cat. I got, family. I got stuff I got to take care of. So I don't get a full 8 hours of sleep. By the end of the day, I'm burnt. And then here they go calling me, hey, it's 6 p.m. We need you to do a run from 6 p.m. to midnight. And I'm like, fuck, dude. And I'm like, you can't seriously think I'm going to get there in the middle of the day, especially first thing of the day, and think I'm going to get a full 8 hours of sleep and be ready to work that evening. And what made that situation even worse was I had called them and was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be fresh this evening for any runs. Can you book me for the next morning? And they were like, you should be good. We don't have anything that should be assigned for until the next day. And then they called me at 6 p.m. Like just literally like 30, 40 minutes after we had talked and said, hey, we need you to do this run. And I was like, you guys are killing me here. And you know what? Against my better judgment, I did that run. As I was getting there, I realized, I was like, shit, dude, this is going to be rough. It's going to be a rough run. And I did that run. And I tell you what, by the time I got there, I was dead tired. I was extremely tired. Like I was at the breaking point. You know, a lot of people, especially young drivers, they get into the job, and they just take whatever run they can get. They want that money. They see that big check. You know, I've had checks that were literally like $1,200, $1,300. One of the best checks I had was like $1,600 in 1 week. 1 week, $1,600. You know, coming from a job where I was making like $14 an hour, $15 an hour, that's not bad. You know, so I want to work, but I stopped taking care of myself, and I forgot that just because you may lay down, that doesn't mean you're going to get 8 hours of sleep. And sometimes that 8 hours is nothing. I had one day I pulled into Vegas, and I had been running around for the past like 11 days, you know, Denver, freaking Salt Lake City, all these crazy out of the way places that I wasn't even supposed to be in, do that job. And when I got back, I went to bed at like 11 in the morning. I didn't wake up until like 6 a.m. the next day. I was so beat, so tired. So you get a lot of new drivers that they do this, they kill themselves, they get all that work, and they think, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna get that money, I'm gonna get paid. And, you know, they'll even incentivize you, you know, they'll give you extra pay if you come in at a short notice, they'll give you extra pay, you know, if you do this, you do that. So you think that's the way to go. Not quite. That's not, you're going to burn yourself out, you're going to be hating life. And, you know, once, you know, my manager, he'd ask me, he's like, hey, you know, are you having problems with, you know, operations and with the job? I didn't have to think about it. I didn't even have to ask him and be like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I immediately knew. I knew immediately that it was like, yeah, I can understand why a lot of new guys are quitting. You know, it's a rough job. It's a very rough job. You know, if you're not used to working like this, you can get burned out real quick. You can get burned out real quick. You know, I could go an entire day with just 6 hours of sleep. Shit, sometimes like 5 hours of sleep. Now, if I can't get in those 8 hours, I know by the end of the day I'm going to be wrecked. So I try to plan, you know. I try to call operations. I try to call the manager. I try to tell them, I say, hey, you know, I just got in at this time. You know, I know they're probably going to try and call me. I look at, you know, where the assignments are falling and where I might be. I'm going to be dead, man. I need you to figure something out. Otherwise, I might have to book off, and I don't want to miss that day. You know, I want to work. Maybe you can get me in something a little earlier. Maybe you can pre-book me, and I know where I'm going. So you got to be careful of that. You know, if you're coming in new, don't burn yourself out. Get a good night's sleep. Don't be afraid to tell them, hey, I'm way too tired to do a run right now. I really just need to just freaking get some sleep. You know, I had just the other day I got in, and, you know, I told my manager, was like, hey, you ready to do this run? I need you to do this and you do that. And I told him, I said, yeah, dude, I just got back after like freaking 5 days of doing a bunch of runs, and each run, you know, was like easily like 9 hours for the run. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I slept, but I sure don't feel rested. And he was like, hey, take a few days off. You know, you've earned a few days, you know, just take those days off. And he gave me 3 days off. I sat around, did nothing. You know, I played with my cat, took him to the vet, get his shots, you know, and I messed with my bike. That's it. Sometimes you just need that, you know. Now, I love the job. It's a good job. You know, it pays well, you know, and, you know, it's not the hardest job I've ever done. You know, I enjoy being with the passengers. I enjoy the environments. I love the fact that, you know, literally you can just get up and go. You know, you want to go to a different city, you could be in a different city. You know, you want to, I've had times where it's just like, hey, you know, I want to check out this new town. I've never been there before. Boom, I'm there. But it's understandable where a lot of people quit within their first year. I think last statistic I heard, it was almost like 60% of new drivers quit within the first 90 days. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Don't burn yourself out. You know your union contract. There are times in which, you know, operations will tell you, hey, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. And you're just like, no. My contract says I'm not supposed to be doing this. My contract says I need these many hours of rest. My contract says, you know your contract. You know, don't be afraid to say no. I've had times where they've called me and they're like, hey, we want to fly you to this place. And I love flying. You know, I love going out. But I knew I was going to be burnt out. And I was just like, you know what? Nah, I just want to stay local. I can't be doing all those crazy runs right now. And they have to respect that. They you know, They can't get in your business. They might want to give you an attitude and be like, hey, we'll give you this extra pay. We'll do this. We'll do that. We really need you to take that run. And you just say, no, I'm sorry. I need rest. All right. So this is Otaku Phil, just telling you, it's a good job. It has its ups and downs, just like any job, it can get boring. It can be long and arduous, but if you stick with it, it pays off. I'm waiting to I'm only just like a couple weeks, like 2-3 weeks from my 90 days and getting my uniform. I can stop wearing these bloody white shirts because I hate white shirts. But hey, I told myself, I was going to stick it out. I need that money. I had goals I want to do. I want to get my Beetle fixed. I want to get my private pilot's license. I want to, do all these great things. I want to buy a little house out of town. And, I got long-term goals. That means I got to work. As much as I love the job, I don't want to be a long-term bus driver. I want to be a bus driver who works, gets the job done, and does it safely. And has goals of, retiring one day. Have goals of, paying off bills, So be aware of that. Know what you want to do with your life. Save your money, have fun. Don't burn yourself out. All right? If you're in LA, you see me walking around, hit me up. Say hi. I'll try to see if I can get down there and see some, but, I'm always running around. I typically do a lot of Vegas runs. I like the Vegas run. It's not the hardest run for me, and I like just hanging in Vegas sometimes. Sometimes I like to do that Denver run if I'm out here. So yeah, if you see me out there, say hey. All right, so Taco Phil. I'll talk to you guys later. Yeah.